There used to be a great dish at Denny's called English Scramble. It was one of my most favorite things, and I don't know why they took it off the menu, but a lot of people still remember it because it was so simple and so good. It just hit the spot, especially at 1 o'clock in the morning after going to JJ Whispers on Lee Road, but that's another story. Anyway, we're gonna make some English Scramble from the recipe. I put this together a long time ago, so I've refined it a little bit with my little cooking knowledge that I have now, and I'll share it with you. We're going to use all these things to make our cheese sauce. I started with some tomato, and to get all the extra water out of it, I cut it in half, squeezed the seeds out, and then I chopped it up really roughly. It's not very pretty, but it'll look nice in the sauce and give it a little color. And this is going to be just a traditional cheese sauce made in the classic way. Little butter, little flour. We're going to whisk that up. Then we're going to add our milk. Then we're going to add our cheese. We need to talk about that cheese a little bit. While the butter's melting in the pot, I am going to get everything else ready to go in there. Here's the thing about the cheese. If you notice, this bag says 1.5 cups of shredded cheese, but it's 6 ounces. That's the thing you gotta watch out for, is the difference between wet ingredients and dry ingredients. They're not the same. So a cup of flour isn't 8 ounces of flour. You need to remember that when you're cooking and baking, because you can really change the amounts that you're putting in there and wonder why, hey, this didn't come out the way the recipe said. That's because we're going to use 1 cup of cheese, which is about 5 ounces. If I used 8 ounces of cheese, I'd have too much cheese. This might look like I'm making a gumbo, but I'm not. I'm making a bechamel, which is one of the mother sauces, and then you add other stuff to it. If you're making a fish sauce, it'd be a velouté, and you wouldn't use necessarily the same ingredients, but it's a similar principle. So let's put our milk in. We're going to keep whisking this until it starts to thicken up, and you might want to add a pinch of salt and a pinch of white pepper, because white sauces should have white pepper. Unless you want it to look really cool, like an Alfredo, I might use a black pepper for that. See how that's all thickened up already? Now we're going to add the cheese and the tomato. So there's your cheese sauce. It looks a little thick, and one of the things I like to do is I like to take that cheese sauce, and after I take it off the heat, I'll hit it with a little bit of heavy cream, a little splash of cold heavy cream, or half and half. So I'm going to do that now. Just a little splash. Perfect. I added a couple ounces of half and half. I whisked it up so it's nice and smooth and beautiful. And now we want to give that a little taste. You know what that needs? I know what it needs. Hold on a second. That needs a little squeeze of mustard. This is so vintage me cooking right here. Live, right in front of your eyes. So, anyway, here's what I did. I still wasn't happy with the sauce, so I put the entire 6.5 ounces of shredded Mexican cheese in there and a little splash of hot sauce. So what you've got is your basic sauce, right? But instead of the cup of shredded cheese, you're gonna have 6.5 ounces, and then a little splash of the hot sauce and about 3/4 of a teaspoon of mustard. Now we're going to scramble up the eggs, and there's a trick to beating eggs, believe it or not. When you beat the eggs, you're going to beat them up, and you're going to kind of lift it up a little bit until the whites are kind of running, they're not all clumped. And what that does is it adds just enough air to make a nice fluffy scrambled egg without adding any milk or anything to it. Also, I crack them into a measuring cup like this just to make sure I don't have any shells or any other, weird stuff in there. I want you to watch how I do this. See what I'm doing? I'm just mixing it together with the fork so they stay nice and fluffy. You see how nice and fluffy those came out? And I just put them over the lightly toasted English muffin. And there you have it, the Denny's Scramble Reboot. You can get the recipe at foodnationradio.com and subscribe to the YouTube at youtube.com/EADoherty1 for a new recipe every day so you can be notified and put together a grocery list.